Hello, and welcome to It's Just Perfume, a Lucky Scent podcast where we talk all things perfume. I'm your host, Stephen Guntarski. Today, I'm so excited to have sat with and chatted with Sergio Momo. He's the founder and director of Xerjoff, one of our favorite brands at Lucky Scent and Scent Bar. I'm sure you're familiar with many of the big hits of the brand, like Lyra, Naxos, Herba Pura. So I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with Sergio Momo, just hearing about his origin story, about how he got the brand started, and his very specific point of view for the brand. And I really hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Sergio Momo, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm so glad you could join.
Glad to be here.
Now, I understand that you're based in Turin, Italy, Torino, and I want to know everything about you. I'd like to know about your early days and before Xerjoff began and how you got started. But I'd just like to know just a little snapshot of Sergio Momo in the early days. So did you grow up in Turin?
I did. I grew up in Turin, and I did all my school, art college.
Yeah. And
then I moved to UK.
Yeah.
When I was about 21, 22.
Okay.
Back in the days, that shows my age. In Italy, the military was to do your military year.
Yeah.
Was compulsory. So I really never liked uniforms.
Yes.
So there was a way of skipping this by doing alternative works.
Yeah.
So I had to do all that, working in radios and doing kind of a social community,
like public service,
stuff like that. So that lasted a couple of years. And then when I finished that, I kind of took my car, fill up the gas, and went to London. Yes.
So you went to art college. That's interesting. Were you always creative, even as a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. Since I was really a child, I always been drawing. Okay. Drawing was my passion. Yes.
Right.
So then drawing obviously became art college. Art college, I went to advertising and communication. Mm. And so when I went to UK, that was my job. Yes.
Yeah.
So everything was more connected to design more than communication.
Sure. Yeah. Do you come from a creative family?
No, not at all. No, my father was into electronic business, and then my mother different things. So no, it's only me.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just guessing because we'll get into the collaborations that Xerjoff has done with different musical artists. I'm kind of guessing that music probably has always played a big part in your life.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. When I was about 6 years old, I was kind of following my sister. Friends, my sister is older than me, and they were all playing guitar,
cool.
Classical guitar on the beach and stuff like that, and actually fell in love with it. We actually had a piano in the house, and my sister was playing the piano. But for me, guitar was a little bit more kind of a free and had kind of a revolution vibes into it.
Sure.
So my mother always said yes for every my requests. She sent me to school, and in the evening I used to go to a neighbor, which used to teach me, the basic guitar.
Oh no!
And I've been playing guitar since,
I had no idea.
So it's I'm not a pro, because then obviously I did something else in life. But yeah, music and rock music and blues has always been part of my life, and still is now.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, of course, I had the clues because of these collaborations.
Yes, true.
But, I mean, it seems that the more I talk with people who are really invested and interested in perfume, very often there's this music connection. A lot of people who are fascinated by music or play music also have a fascination with perfume. Not always, but I do see that it's a theme, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there is a connection. I mean, I cannot think of living a life without music. I don't know, can you? But it's only recently, I mean, the last 5 or 6 years, that I find out that a lot of very famous rock musicians are very much into perfume.
Yeah.
And for a different reason, I often, and I mean, I'm a big friend of Tony Iommi, and they said, why do you your house is full of perfume? He says, well, because of the traveling, we've been touring all our lives, so, you spend your time in different city, and you start, buying, and then you get into it. And after him, I found out that many other rock musicians are really very much, not just in perfume, but in niche perfume, which is quite exciting to know.
I mean, I have my theories too. I think that both perfume and music create atmospheres. So if you have kind of a romantic inclination, you seek atmospheres. It's kind of an atmospheric story. Both music and perfume do that so beautifully. So of course, I can understand this crossover.
Absolutely. Yeah, it must be like that. Even if it's not romantic, it's just emotions. It can be, it can even, as I said, I mean, heavy metal. It can be anything, which is. But still, there is a connection. There's a strong connection with this musician, the great artist, and the world of perfumery.
Yeah.
So this is very, very interesting.
Was perfume important to your family?
Very much.
Oh, okay.
Yes, very much. Starting from my grandmother.
Yeah.
Which used to collect perfume back in the days, and so that meaning between the two wars, and so my mother, she was pretty much a big collector of perfumes. We're talking about Arpège, those kind of all-time
the classical
classic
French perfumes. Yeah. Were there classical Italian perfumes as well?
Oh yes. Back in the days was the first, the early years of Trussardi, which were, absolutely was, let's say between the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. There were some great releases, yes. Yeah. And my father was not a collector of perfume, but he loved perfumes and odors. So he was a true traveler of the world, much more than what I am, because back in the days. I travel all around the world, but then, 2 or 3 days you're back home. Doesn't matter how far you are. In my father's time, when you were traveling for business, you go away for 2 months and come back. And obviously there were no mobile phone or anything like that. So there was a real kind of
Dad's gone.
Dad disappear and then come back.
Yeah.
And so he spent a lot of time in Asia and Taiwan and China. And every time he used to come back with... perfume oiled, so nothing was branded.
Yeah.
It was kind of all real piece of sandalwood or perfume oil and stuff. And he was really, really much into these kind of things. This, when I went to this place and this is what it smelled like, he was really very much into it.
That's incredibly glamorous and exotic to have that experience as a kid.
Yeah, actually, and once, a long time ago, when I was still a kid, he came back from China. He was in love with Beijing as a city. And Japan, of course. By that time, he went to Beijing and come back with a small. It used to be called Sniff Bottle, which there were small bottles about a couple of inches high. They were carved into semi-precious stone or jade stone, and they used to contain either kind of perfume powder or oil. Yeah. And apparently, during the previous centuries, those things used to be worn as a necklace, and they used to smell it. So they would call it Sniff Bottle. And that, after 20 years, that was a kind of one of the starting point of Xerjoff.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Because that was the idea of creating this sculpture in the semi-precious stones and combining craftsmanship with perfume. That was kind of those little sniff bottles, which I still have at home, brought my father 30, 40 years ago. Maybe more than that, oh God.
With the sniff bottles, were they meant for you to just sniff out of enjoyment, or were you actually supposed to apply some and wear them as perfume?
Do you know, I don't know that. Those sniff bottles, they were absolutely gorgeous because they were not just carved in stone or semi-precious stones, but they were all chiseled inside and outside. Oh my God. So that's those kind of crazy craftsmanship. And then I remember there was a small amount of silk which was wrapped around the top. Probably in order to avoid, to spill or anything like that. But bear in mind, those objects were already 200 years old back then. Wow. So, we are talking about something really, really old. Yeah. And I did find some of those in an old book as well. I obviously, like everybody, I'm collecting books on perfumes. Mm-hmm. And there was a very nice book, and I found it on a open market. and it was a book on bottles, not just the perfume, just on packaging and bottles. And I did find in the first section of that book those Sniff bottles. That's why I know they're called like that, because I did find them. That was the right name.
Right.
And so we haven't invented anything. We just kind of taking this idea and brought them in a different century.
That's fascinating, especially if it goes way back. I'm trying to imagine who would use these Sniff bottles. I'm guessing nobility, Chinese nobility would probably have these
I would have
things,
thought so, and probably they were not perfume, but they were kind of a monofragrance. Maybe we're just kind of I presume maybe it was kind of jasmine or single fragrance. Knowing the Chinese culture, probably everything was very much connected to flowers and herbs.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of guessing, but nevertheless, those were something which really sparkled the idea after many years to recreate something along the same line.
Oh, that's so fascinating, because I'm thinking maybe of a European equivalent. I don't know if it is or not, but I'm thinking about the Victorian smelling salts and just having fragrance, not necessarily to wear, but in pre-modern days, there were probably a lot of odors that were not nice in everyday life. So just to be able to have access to this moment of olfactive beauty, I would imagine.
Absolutely, yes. Sometimes people used to sniff tobaccos as well for sneezing. So you have all these kind of a really fascinating small object made in silver or similar metal. So there is an entire universe behind those small objects that people used to carry
incredible.
with them. Yes.
I love it. This art of scent is so long and rich.
It goes back forever. It really does.
That's really cool. So what were you doing in London?
Well, design business. I actually I took my car and my Fiat car and I drove all the way up to London. And after a few days, I found a job, which was quite amazing. And I was a graphic designer. And my English was very poor. And but nevertheless, when you are 20s, you do great things.
Yeah.
And
so this was 80s, early 90s?
It was 86.
Oh my God, what a time to be in London.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, it was, probably the best decade, at least in terms of music.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, then from London, I moved to the southwest. I went to Bath, then Bristol, then Bath again, then back to London. So more or less it was about 9-10 years.
Yeah.
And that's it. Then my kind of almost finished the reason why I should stay away from home. And my mother wasn't very well and so on. So I decided to come back. And by then I obviously carry on working in the design business and developing to branding. Yeah. Which is where exactly my background come from. Yeah. So product design and branding and corporate identity, that's what I done for most of my career. Yeah. And especially towards the recent years, I was working for luxury brands as well, spirits and luxury brands. And so I got an understanding on how to develop, at least from the design point of view and from the strategy point of view, a luxury brand. Yeah. And so when I decided to come up with an idea with a perfume, which has to be completely different for what was available on the market, I did have a knowledge of at least the basic or how
branding works.
Absolutely,
definitely. Yes. I'm trying to get a mental snapshot of you in London in the mid-'80s. I'm sure you probably wore fragrances, because I'm kind of guessing that you've probably worn fragrance since your early days.
Yes. Although, fragrances I like were expensive. So I used to go around these kind of independent perfumery and collect the vials, the small sample of Creed and Penhaligon, right? And then Check and Speak,
of course,
and all those Flores. Yes, I wasn't too much into Flores. For me, Flores was a little bit more kind of less innovative. Yeah. But Creed was definitely the brand which I really fell in love with, and and inspired a lot. But again, it was expensive. I was very young, and
sure.
living in the UK was expensive.
Yeah.
So it was always, to get. I remember, when I was able to buy the 30 ml bottle, was a real kind of a gain.
Do you remember what your first real fragrance was? The one that you really fell in love with, and maybe it was when you were still in Italy before London.
Yes, I used to love people like family's friend coming up and turning up for a dinner at my house. And I remember a lot of, I said, my father or my mother's friend. They used to wear fragrances.
Yeah.
And Equipage from Hermes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It was. I thought that the man wearing Equipage was, for me,
They
was all
were
that. It was a classic. This kind of a tobacco fan. At the time, I didn't know anything about ingredients, but then I was fascinated by a man which perfumed well. For me, it was they were a true gentleman. Even if they were turning up in jeans and a shirt, they were still very, very classy.
Yeah, I mean,
and
doesn't get more classy than that.
And those were the first. Obviously, it wasn't my perfume, but still.
You never got a bottle of Equipage?
I broke few.
You broke other people's.
I still remember, breaking a big bottle of Equipage in the sink, and I managed to recover some in the broken. And so my father is gonna kill me. And when he came home in the evening, I said, did you cut yourself? I said, no, it's okay. But I saved some of the perfume. He said, look, no, it doesn't work like that. It's going to evaporate. And I said, okay, he didn't get upset. But I still remember that,
Thanks, Dad. Do you remember some of the other fragrances in his collection?
No, really, no, because he kind of he had alternative between. He used to wear perfume in the evening and aftershave before going to work. So aftershave, there were kind of a different brand. We had some Italian brands.
Yeah.
And so the French brand were kind of the perfume as such that were kept for the evening. Yes.
Oh, wow. I mean, did he do this every evening? Was it a regular thing for him?
Yes, especially in the weekends.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you see, my parents were actually wearing the perfume in the old ways. Perfume is something that you wear every day, but you had the perfume for a special occasion, and then you have the aftershave, for the regular working day. And this is interesting because today, obviously, we perceive perfume, at least in the niche category, in a completely different way.
Yeah.
For them, it was a way of dressing up, So, but for us, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in one generation, I think things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
In the way we perceive. We both generation, we love perfume, but we really perceive them in a different way.
I mean, there are always people who are really into fragrance, like myself included, who have so many different ones for different occasions, and you couldn't imagine going out to an event without scenting yourself. But
no.
I know that that's kind of unusual. Not everyone is like that, but I'm guessing back in parents' generation, especially in Europe, I would imagine, it's just much more common that that's what you do to get ready, to prepare.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it was like that, yes. And then I remember when I used to collect a lot of the samples that were still in Italy, I used to blend them together, and of course, the result was awful. But still, the idea of creating my own personal sense, it was there. And I remember there was a perfume from the Creed collection, was called Acier Aluminium.
Okay.
Yes, which was really, really weird back in the day. I mean, today it would be normal, but back in the day, that was really something which was breaking the rules.
Like metal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yes. And that was the sample which was easily available. While others were, very difficult to obtain, because obviously you go into the shop, you don't buy anything, you ask for sample, you do it once, and then they after
get out of here.
Get out. And so, but that is something that I used to find, but it was really kind of quite weird.
Yeah.
But I used to wear that, and because that's the sample I had. But I did realize that why on earth somebody should create a perfume like that? And I think that was very interesting, because I started to appreciate something which was really something out of the box.
Yes.
Because obviously all the masculine fragrance back in the days was the classic vetiver, and Bergamot. It was the kind of Italian cologne kind of thing, and it was pretty common. Well, you have differences in quality, but the direction more. Or you had this tobacco like Hermes and so on. But that Creed perfume was really, really something different, and I started to appreciate it after maybe few months. Then I was wearing because I only had that. But then I said, that is my perfume, because nobody smelled like me. Because it was very unusual. It was a very unusual scent. And I think that was the beginning of a different way of having relationship with perfume. You have a perfume that nobody has. Well, back in the 80s and the 90s was exactly the opposite. We had this kind of a unisex approach where, there was a perfume for everybody. Across the world, you had to wear the same perfume and join this kind of international community smelling all the same. But that was completely the opposite. And I was kind of proud to smell in a different way, either by mixing different vials that I had, and again the result was awful. I even realized back then that the results were not good, but nevertheless I had something that nobody had. So,
do you think your friends knew you as the scent guy?
A little bit, but for the simple reason that at least when I was 14, 15, nobody wears scents. Yeah, it was very, very rare.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So
in American high schools, it's common to start wearing something around 14,
no,
15.
For us, no. It was something. No, you had the deodorant and that's it.
Okay.
Yes. So back in those days, yes. So it was quite
probably different now because of social media, I would imagine. But
now it's a completely different story.
Definitely.
But even after 10 years, it was a completely different story. But back in those days, it was quite unusual. Well, remember that I kind of grew up between the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and the only particular scents which was going around between friends was patchouli, was the patchouli oil.
Sure,
which was the kind of a Woodstock kind of
especially in music scenes.
That's right. So, but that again was something which was really, really exotic, extremely strong. And then obviously it was that kind of patchouli. I mean, obviously, like you know that there are different kind of quality of everything. And that patchouli that you find you find it for a few liras. At the time we had lira, we didn't have the euros. It was really awful. And everybody was wearing this just to look, to feel like a hippie, this. And
my imagination is just going crazy right now because I kind of have a love for goth music, like traditional goth music from the 80s, because that's what I grew up with. And I also lived in London and had some friends from Italy, and they were also ex-goths. And they told me about the goth scenes in Italy. And so I'm just imagining them in these incredible black garments reeking of patchouli and these cool clubs.
It was like that.
Rome
it was
Turin.
Exactly like that. It was exactly like that. And you take the bus, because at the time we didn't even have the tube, so you take the bus during the summertime. Oh my God, it was the most awful journey because it was really bad news. Yes, that patchouli was really bad. Really
bad in
bad.
Such a good way. So after London, you returned to Italy, and is this the point when you decide to start a brand?
Not immediately. I actually put together a couple of communication company, one based in Turin, one based in Bristol, where I was coming from, because I still had some clients over there. And things were going quite well. And we were, again, working for important clients based in Italy and in Europe. And then... But because we were working, like I told you before, in a particular sector, which was the packaging and branding, which in UK, in America, and North of Europe, was quite normal to have an advertising companies and then a below-the-line communication company, which you take care of the packaging, what have you. Well, in Italy, it was different. So the advertising company was actually agglomerating everything. So it wasn't a specialization. So when I came back to Italy, I had that in mind, and there were really few, actually. There were maybe only 2 or 3 agencies throughout the country specialized in packaging and branding. So we immediately had, a lot of projects, and which they were really well played, and so we were really happy. But then this is where the computer graphic came along. And that was an interesting revolution, but not for us, because suddenly all you had to do is to buy an Apple or a Macintosh, like it used to be called at the time, and you were a graphic designer. which is not, it's like saying, oh, tomorrow I buy a guitar, I'm a musician. It doesn't really work like that. You need to how to play the guitar, or you need to be a musician. Or tomorrow I want to create a perfume, and that's it.
Yeah.
But back in those days, it was like that. So obviously you had all these students, buying this Macintosh and doing graphic design, it was called like that, and be paid, really, really little. So they kind of, there was a moment where the industry was kind of really ruined.
Yeah.
So we were a little bit disappointed with how things were going. So I had a business partner from the commercial side that he started to do other things with the automotive and so on. And I said, well, I have to start doing something else apart from this design business.
Yeah.
And I had 2 or 3 options, and obviously the one creating my own brand was one of those. But to be honest, I didn't start. When I started, I created something which was really weird. So I didn't have intention to creating a brand. I didn't have a business plan. Because I was creating this perfume that were actually carved out of semi-precious stones. All the packaging was completely natural. The base were made of ebony wood. Everything was so researched. All the logos were made in gold, 21 karat gold with ruby. So everything was totally natural. We didn't use any glue or any synthetic plastic, so everything was either brass plucked in gold or was real wood. But it was a kind of a work of art. It was an object which I really loved to the concept, and we made a little book. But then I realized that when I finished these 2 or 3 perfume, they cost already back then. We're talking about 23 years ago. That were costing me 3,000 or 4,000 euros, which is about 5,000. So if you introduce that to the market, and then before this object goes into retailers and the final customers, obviously the price was unseen during those days. So it was really kind of an artistic exercise.
Sure.
Obviously, I went down to grass. I took some few courses on perfume and distillation techniques.
So did you actually make the juice, the perfume that went inside of these?
Well, sort of, because I was kind of taking. South of France is really close to Turin. For us, it's a couple of hours drive. So for me, it was very comfortable to go there every week and taking courses and start doing this little blending. But what I really fell in love, it was first of all the natural aspect of the perfumery connected with the distillation techniques. So I understood that the distillation techniques was the creative part of the blending, because that is what allows you to create something different. So one thing is to have the quality side of the ingredients, which of course is very important, but then you had to have the knowledge of what you can do in order to transform this kind of alchemic process. We're transforming a very good raw material in something which is really creative, and then you do it with the distillation techniques, fraction distillation and so on. So that's what fascinated me. And by playing with little initial ingredients, I did understood what it takes to create a good perfume. But when I finally decided to do this kind of a 2 or 3 work of art, then I went to a French company which also had offices in Italy. I said, oh, this is the idea. And I realized I was absolutely nobody. Why should an international perfume company create according to my brief, something for me, which at the end of the day were probably 25 ml. Because it was pure parfuming oil. It wasn't. So why should they? But they accepted the request. And like always in life, you need to have some luck as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it was meant to happen.
And today, after more than 20 years, we're still working with them, of course.
Really?
And of course.
Same company?
Yes. Obviously, we used other companies, but obviously, yes, they have created for us, most of our portfolio, and but still, they have all those companies which believed in this crazy idea. They're still part of their family now. part of our history.
So incredible.
The good relationship with people also is one of the most important ingredients in business.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, you talk about Xerjoff, and we are who we are, so everybody would love to work with us. But back in those days, we were absolutely nothing. We were nothing.
Yeah.
We were nobody. We was just a crazy idea.
You were knocking on those doors.
Oh, yes, yes. And we've been knocking doors for a long time. Yes.
Oh, my God. The original juice that was made for these ornate vessels, do you still have any of that around?
Yeah, of course. Of course. It was actually called Homme and Elle in French. And recently we had the Homme anniversary and Elle anniversary, which is that are not over here, but I saw them.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so those were the 17 years anniversary of the very first blend. Now, obviously, they're based on alcohol, but back in those days they were in the stone labels.
So, how similar would you say this is to that original perfume?
Well, we still have the original blend, and that is the anniversary version. But we still have the original blend, which is exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's something that we never do, is to change the blend ever, unless obviously there are some legal, obviously restriction. Which every year, you know better than me, they come and some blends needs to be twisted according to the legislation. But apart from that, we never change that the original, because for me creating a perfume is like a movie. Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
Okay, you can fix maybe the music, the sound, but that's principally I always remember seeing an interview on Sean Connery, and talking about James Bond, and they were asking Sean Connery, do you often see your old James Bond, Mr. No, and so on? And he said, no, I never watch them because if I see so many mistakes, and I would love to do them again. And I thought that he was right. I mean, sometimes you go back and say, well, maybe this one, which is being around 10 years or 12 years, now, I would like to do a little arrangement, but it's not fair.
Yeah.
That's what it's like an album,
Yes.
It's that you create a song, of course, then after 20 years you're a better musician, after 30 years you are even better musician, but you should not turn your back on what you've done very much at the beginning.
It's like you gave birth to this baby, you just have to let it grow.
That's
now.
it, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no point carry on, and you might as well do something else and leave this kind of a witness of those early days.
Yeah. So these art pieces that you did, would you consider them to be the first stage of Xerjoff, the brand, or something that ultimately resulted in you starting this brand?
Of course, that those were the stepping stone, because we actually presented a project. I tell this story many times. We presented a project in Russia. And because we have some connection, so one day I go to Russia and I present this project. And when this general manager sort of listened to all my story about the semi-precious stones and hand craftsmanship and everything, and he said to me, how many of these pieces do you have? Yeah. And I said, well, I only have one here and one back home. And he said, well, I need 30. I said, 30 is a lot. And I said, yeah, well, you are in Russia, it's a big market. We have many doors. And so, he also trusted in me. And I didn't even have a company back there dedicated. So I kind of went back, created a quick LTD, and sent the first invoice, which he was paid as a deposit. So everything was kind of really fair from that point of view. And thanks to this, to the first client, that we started to create few of those work of art. And it was also presented in Harrods as well, but we only had one or two clients. But then I think that one turning point was when after a couple of years, this Russian client came to me and said, look, we're starting to having a problem here, because we're actually selling jewels with perfume inside, and we don't have the license. It's here in Russia, law changes on the daily basis. We are having, controls in our shops. You're selling this for 12,000, 15,000 euros. and it's a jewels, it's not perfume, you don't have a license to sell jewels. Can you do something similar, same concept, same creativity, same quality, but something a little bit more like a perfume? Like,
right.
you know, you said, you know perfume
in
where you spray,
glass bottle.
Glass bottle where you spray, you come out, something. I said, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. So this is where Shooting Star was born. And then after Shooting Star, we had Casamorati, and then we had joined the club, and then we started all that. So it was a specific request of getting a little bit more aligned with the market in order for them to sell Xerjoff without having some licensing problem.
That's interesting. So basically, the brand was the solution to this problem. Basically, he said, we need to sell something because you're already establishing your name.
Yes. And he's saying to me, of course, people loves the perfume and the concept, but we almost kind of hide when we sell it. You know, we cannot put it on the window. When somebody come around and ask it, we just take it from underneath the drawer and sell it. And instead, it's not good for the brand.
That is a wild story.
We're selling, we're making business, but we need to make it official. And in order to make it official, you need to drop some of those kind of artistic approach and to make, and without stopping. I mean, we still do on request those art pieces. But obviously, now today we are a more kind of a easy to understand brand, and we still are very complicated. I think. I mean, we're a very big portfolio. We have many collections, and we have a lot of stories, and we merge with many artists, and so we are a complicated brand, with no doubt. But not as complicated as we were at the first year of our life.
Does that same store in Russia, the one that told you, hey, we need juice in a simpler perfume bottle, do they still sell the Xerjoff collection?
Not right now. Not right now, because actually we did have a beautiful monobrand boutique in Moscow, which we closed down because of the present situation. So unfortunately, our business now is it's not down, it's not there anymore. Hopefully, we'll, for not just for this reason, for about obvious reason, we all hope that the war is going to end everywhere in the world and carry on, living a normal life. But it's a shame because the Russian market was actually the first true stepping stone for our brand.
For sure, they nurtured you to start.
Absolutely,
brand,
and then Harrods and a few doors in UK, and then we started with Germany, which for us is a very important market, and then after I think after 2 or 3 years we kind of came and visit the USA.
Yeah, sure. I remember because I've been with Lucky Scent Bar for 16 years, and I remember when we got Shooting Stars.
Yes, it's going back a long time. Yes.
And I love the brand. Now, I read that Xerjoff, its name comes from your nickname, which is Joff.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's Sir Joff.
Exactly.
Do people still call you Joff? Can I call you Joff?
No, really, because that was my father, my mother, my grandmother. So no, it's kind of a fade out. Yes, it's a very kind of it's a child memory.
It's more of your child nickname.
Yes.
Got it.
Correct. Yes.
And then it became Xerjoff. I love that. So if I remember correctly, the shooting stars were named after, were they stones that hit the earth?
Correct. Meteorites. Yes. So basically, every time we launch a perfume or a collection, I'm not able to launch a perfume for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I need to have a story, a research, something that justify, this kind of approach to perfumery. So either we take, history, a book, or anything, and we get inspired by a book, a novel, a story, or some real event, historical event. Or if we come up with an idea, a created idea, still the idea needs to be backed up by something which is anybody can actually go and check and see, that's is really happening. So this, again, I'm going back to my father, because my father had many hobbies, and one of my father's hobby was actually astronomy. He used to build his own lenses to watch telescopes to watch the skies and all the planets and so
Your
on.
dad sounds like the coolest person.
Oh yeah, he was really kind of a one of a kind. Yeah, he spoke Japanese and Russian. He's a very, very smart guy. And then again, we had many books at home on astronomy and so on. So although I kind of back at the time when I was young, I wasn't really interested. I still had some knowledge of what, at least how this, the universe is shaped. And so the idea came to name this perfume after the meteorites. And the meteorites, obviously, there are millions of meteorites floating around the universe. But some of them actually managed to cross the atmosphere and land on the Earth. So the name of each meteorite is taken from the place where they land, which could be a field, a mountain, a city, and. But then the idea to make it more real, it was to, and it still is now, to actually introduce inside the box a real piece of meteorites with a certification. Just to, back in the days, the the headline was the stars are closer than you think. So you buy a perfume, which is a star, but I'm giving you a real piece of star that you can treasure. And that was fun. And again, I mean, you had to communicate that. And that's why I was telling you before, we are a complicated brand. And sometimes it's always today it's much easier because you have different kind of tools to communicate, and social media is one of those. But back in the days, you had the traditional advertising communication methods, and that was money. And that obviously was expensive. So it was more word of mouth kind of attitude by touring around the world and presenting your project, and that's what you had. So a lot of customers, which I still meet sometimes around the world, they said to me, I'm still going around with a stone in my pocket, and that stone is a meteorite, so it's okay, it's fine. At least they remember that was the perfume of the meteorites, yes.
Now, these fragrances are still around. If I'm not mistaken, Neo is part of the Shooting Stars and Kobe. So if you were to buy Neo or Kobe now, they don't still have a stone in the box. Of course they do. They do.
Of course they do, yes. Yeah, everything we do stays as originally planned. Yes,
so
absolutely.
That's going to stay.
That's just going to stay. Absolutely, yes.
Oh, that's incredibly cool.
Yes, I did find back in those days, because I see meteorites, they vary a lot. Some meteorites, they look like a rusty piece of stone, so they're not really nice. Some others, they look like a piece of silver. So I did a selection of different meteorites which could be found through collectors or museum and so on. And I spot one meteorite which is called Cicotaline. And this meteorite is part of a huge shower of meteorites which happened in 1947 in South Siberia. So a lot of that is still available. And once you collect this small stone and you polish them, they really look like a piece of silver. So that's what I like to introduce in my perfume, because they look nice, basically.
This goes right back to those original pieces that were basically jewelry. They were carved.
Yes, you always have something which, it was stepping out of usual path. And of course, perfume has always been the most important thing. Like we said before, the blend between creativity and quality, but still the whole concept of the packaging and the story has always been part of Xerjoff. So you shouldn't. You see, at the very beginning, there was a lot of critics on what we were doing, because especially in Italy, a lot of retailers and distributors are now, you're overbuilding, you're overdoing your packaging. The most important thing is what is inside, is the perfume. And I always fight against that, because the multisensorial aspect of what we do is always been for us the number one. It was always been the difference between us and the rest of our competitor. So the attention to detail, the design, the story, the creativity, everything is Xerjoff. Of course, it goes without saying that the perfume is the most important element, but nevertheless, it's part of the whole story.
Definitely. It's a very complex story, but in your mind, it all makes sense. And so for someone who is more used to traditional perfumes, they probably didn't know where to place this. It was a challenge for them. But I'm glad at this point, after so many years, they get the story.
Now. Oh, yes. Now we are definitely recognized. But yeah, it took a while.
Yeah, definitely.
It took a while.
I like how the brand is chopped up into different stories. So there is the Shooting Stars, there is Join the Club, and there are multiple sub-brands, let's say, and then the Casamoratis. And some of these are incredibly popular at Lucky Scent, like Lyra, Mephisto, Italica. These are all very popular sellers for us, and I love showing them to people. What is the story with it? Was Casamorati a brand that already existed that Xerjoff kind of revived?
Exactly. So after a few years, only after 2 or 3 years, where we started to, I would say, conquer a few markets around the world, one of the strongest points that was reflected to us, it was, but Xerjoff doesn't sound Italian. And, the market was expecting to call maybe a perfume Sergio, or Marco, or, Giorgio, because it was saying, and I kind of always avoided to have that kind of a common path. Like it sounds like a made-up name for a pair of jeans or something. So my story was always being a personal story.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I felt that it was difficult for some market to understand that such a difficult name was actually representing an Italian brand, and everything around us was Italian. It was a real made in Italy, and everything was Italian, but not the name. At the same time, I started to get fascinated about the history of Italian perfumery, because everybody knows about obviously the French history, which is obviously the best history in terms of perfumery. But Italy, like Germany, like Russia, like England, they did have an interesting story, and Italy, like many other countries in Europe, had a kingdom. And when there was a kingdom, there were a lot of small perfume houses working for the kingdoms. For the queen or for the king and so on. And Italy was exactly the same. So I went and visited a very small private museum near Milan, and where there were probably 6 or 7, maybe more, 6 or 7, not 10, let's say 8 or 9 Italian brands, which most of them, they don't exist anymore. Right. And some of the things in there were absolutely amazing. The packaging, this kind of Art Nouveau style, and these beautiful boxes with you open the box and you had this music, the carry-on music coming out, and you had the Murano glass bottles and flacons. And I was amazed there was such a richness, and nobody knew about it. And but there was one brand which really kind of struck me, and that was Casamorati. Which was founded in Bologna in 1888. So I did some research with difficulties to find perfume or some old advertising. And back in those days, at least in Italy, were very popular the small calendar. You used to find a small calendar which were perfumed already. Oh. And every month you had this beautiful drawing, and there was kind of a black and white drawing of perfume or talc or body powder and things like that. Fascinating, the details. And I said that I would like to bring this brand back to life. So I looked for the owners, and some of the owners were still alive, but they were kind of the company deceased even before or during the Second World War. So the company kind of stopped. Also because then I find out more and more about the story of Casamorati. Not most of it, some of the people which owned the brand were Jewish, and they were deported and never came back. Yeah. So that was one of the reasons why then the brand wasn't even, when the war finished, it wasn't brought forward. Yeah. And then obviously then during that time, the French brand they were more innovative at the time. So from Coty to Chanel and Guerlain, they had more ideas and more story, and that the Italian perfumery kind of softened a little bit, and the French brand took over. Nevertheless, the history was there.
Yeah.
So we agreed to take this brand and bring it forward. Obviously, in a little bit more modern key, without still maintaining, the graphic, for example, the design, the Art Nouveau, because that was the best time where the brand was successful.
Were the original bottles the same shape?
Yes, they were much bigger. They were much smaller, but now we made them 100 ml. But back in the day, they were much smaller.
Were they more this 30 ml size?
Yes, but they were transparent. And the first first four perfume, we did have the recipe and the name. So Fiore d'Ulivo, Mephisto, and Bouquet d'Al, they were all original names.
Interesting, right.
And all the perfume were all there. We still do have some of the perfume, but after so many years, obviously, they smell. So we kind of guessed, reading the recipe, the direction. And there was also an interesting work. I mean, the first perfume that we created was Mephisto and the Fiore d'Ulivo. Yeah. Fiore d'Ulivo, it means the flower of the olive oil tree, the olive tree, which back in the days, this small white flower was very much used in perfumery. But it's a flower which stays on the tree only 2 or 3 days, and far from the harvest time. Yeah. So you really need to go and just pick those flowers during those 2 or 3 days, otherwise. But it has this kind of a, to me, this petty grain, kind of a green, flowery, which was back in those days was the real one of the real smell of Italy, the Mediterranean. So I found a company which was ready to reproduce, actually to do the harvest and reproduce this oil. So we did reproduce quite faithfully the original Fior d'Ulivo perfume, which it has this kind of a white flower, green white flower. Back at the days was a cologne. We do perfume, but back at the day was a cologne. But so we went into that kind of details, so even though in order to reproduce the original blend.
The smell of Italy and olive trees are everywhere in Italy. It's actually rare to find distillations of olive flowers.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Now I recently read that this is kind of coming back, but yes, it is rare. Yeah, it is quite rare.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Like iris, the oris is because of obviously the Florentine oris is becoming rarer and rarer because obviously it's a very difficult procedure to cultivate it and. And a lot of land is given to winery and to grapes instead of the growth of the flower, but.
It seems like the different sub-brands of Xerjoff, like Casamorati, have their own personality and feel. So when you come up with a new fragrance for Casamorati, are there certain characteristics that you're looking for? It should be this style, and that's what sets it apart from Shooting Stars or from Chemi or the other sub-brands?
Indeed. Every Casamorati perfume tends to be a real Italian story. Even if the latest story, like Quattro Pizzi that we recently launched, are not belonging to the original Casamorati story, but they are Italian stories. Yes. They are part of our culture. So they are kind of taken from noble families, maybe from the south or from the north. So there's always a true story. There's always a true Italian story behind each Casamorati perfume. So it is an Italian novel, if you can call it like that, where every chapter is a perfume.
Yeah, I love that. I am so excited to talk about the newest releases. We just got at Lucky Scent and Scent Bar the collaboration Xerjoff did with Duran Duran. I'm a massive fan of Duran Duran, and there have been some collaborations already. You have worked with Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath.
Yeah, Brian May from Queen.
Okay,
Save Me.
I haven't smelled that one.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, is it because you already had relationships with these people and then it just happened organically?
Yes, in a way. Yes, like I told you before. Brian, he wasn't into perfume before we met. And I actually got, but Brian he's always been working since early age in defense of animal rights and nature. So this connection with nature has always been very, very strong. So when we started to work on during the pandemic, we started to work on this project. He kind of fell in love with the universe of perfume. Well, Tony Iommi, no, that is a different story. He's always been very much into. Yeah. He's always been a collector of perfume. Yeah. So it was somehow, more interesting to collaborate together because it was kind of a real kind of a back and forth projects. And with Tony, the project was particularly interesting because it was a truly multisensorial project, because we started with the perfume, then we created a soundtrack, and then we created a music video. So more we went into the collaboration, more things were coming out. Yeah. So when we launched the first perfume and the second one, so the Tony Iommi, the Special Monkey, and then Deified, both the perfume came with a soundtrack and with a video. Yeah. So that was particularly interesting.
That's incredible. How theatrical. I love that.
I was, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So I have 2 of the Duran Duran fragrances on now. Are there 4 or 5 in total?
No, in reality it's only 2.
Oh, okay.
But Neo Rio comes in 4 colors.
Oh, okay.
So so the final customer, they can decide which color he prefer to have. Some of the customers, sometimes they buy all 4 for collection. But in reality, only 2 are the perfume: Neo Rio and Black Moonlight. Yes.
It's really beautiful. I have it here on my left wrist, and I think because of the fluorescent color, I imagined what it was going to smell like, and it doesn't smell like that. No. So there's something. I get leather. They're nice bass notes, but this really beautiful touch of maple, a little maple syrup or an immortelle, which gives it this texture that I'm loving.
Nice spices, and well, you see, you had here it was very interesting because the difference between working with Aya Bryan or Tony, it was with Duran Duran. We actually have 4 different point of view, which is actually 5, me as well. Yeah. So obviously the table was much more complicated, but it was extremely good fun because all 4 of them were extremely interested in saying their point of view. Because here it was the time to tell the story through which they've been telling their story with music all their life, but it was the first time they were saying the story with a perfume. So 4 different characters, completely different from each other, and 4 fantastic musicians and artists, which they truly collaborated. Yeah. And to the final. But that's the reason why we created 2 at the end, because we should have 4 or 5. Right. It's because 1 wasn't enough. Okay. To tell the story of Duran Duran, 1 perfume wasn't enough. So we decided to split the story between the old days and the present day. So Neo Rio tells the story of, probably the early days, the 80s stroke the 90s, while the Black Moonlight is more the present.
I'm imagining the video of Rio when I'm smelling this, and I thought I would be smelling pineapple and coconut and watery notes just because of that iconic video and the colors that are in there. And the fact that it's actually quite serious and a little dark, and I love that.
Yes, because you see, the first thing that Duran Duran said to me is that we are still together after many years because we never stop developing our own music. Okay, we didn't stop in the 80s or the 90s, so our story keeps going.
They keep developing.
in investigating new paths for the band and so on. I mean, the latest album, is actually like that. So also they make very interesting collaboration with other musicians. So they keep on going to investigate different direction in terms of music. So they made it very clear to me that the perfume should tell this story. It wasn't just, the cover of Rio, of course, it's iconic, but it shouldn't be just that. Sure. It should be 40 years of music and 40 years of complexity from that point of view, research and creativity. Yeah. And So that is what the and again, I mean, all four of them completely different personalities to be combined in two perfumes.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't an easy task, but I think that yes, some people think that because of the color, maybe of the packaging, the perfume is going to be something quite, I don't know, fruity or easy, but it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's quite complex, and it's something that needs to be read carefully.
And very chic. But I always thought the guys in Duran Duran were chic.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Now, of the four, are any of them really big frag heads? Any really into perfume?
I think Simon and Nick, both of them.
Okay, I was going to say Nick. He's always my favorite. Yeah.
Yes. Well, both of them are huge collectors, and they have a very clear idea about what they had in mind.
Yeah, sure.
Both of them, and that's what really made it the challenge, you know.
Yeah.
Because to come to a conclusion, it was a great success. Because there was no way that any of them, we said, okay, let's just close the project and go on with it. No.
Yeah.
Has to be perfect for all of them.
Yeah.
So and that is a great pleasure for me, because it shows that they took the project seriously.
Yeah.
And for them, it was, it is a really important moment of their career.
Yeah.
And it wasn't taken easily, or like fun. It was a serious
you can see in their
project.
music that their attention to detail is
very much
meticulous. With this Black Moonlight, I have it on my right wrist, and I love it. In fact, this is probably the one I'm going to wear regularly, because the benzoin, and for me, that is a note that when I smell a lot of benzoin, it just works for me. So the benzoin and other amber notes are coming through, but in the dry down, I get this little touch of powder, and I love this because it makes me think of almost like barbershop powder. So I feel like I'm a dandy when I wear this, and I think of the gentlemen in Duran Duran as being such modern day dandies.
Absolutely. You have this kind of a vintage modern vibe, which makes it interesting and quite unique. Yes, absolutely.
Did you know the perfumer you wanted to create these fragrances? Did you already have this person in mind?
Oh, no. We went through quite a few of them.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then at the final act, we actually did some blends together in order to come to the final. Yes. So it was definitely a project which is a lot of people were involved.
That's incredible.
Yes, I just say there was some sort of complexity into it, but that was the fun of it.
Sure.
It was really good fun.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy, but it was a great pleasure to build up this project together.
And I suppose
not only from the perfume point of view, also from the packaging point of view.
Of course, yeah.
So we went through together to all the details and. From the inside of the box, the outside of the box, the outer carton, the communication, the advertising, and so they kind of had an overview on everything, and we had, as I said, a working table open night and day, because sometimes they were in the USA, sometimes in Europe. So it was kind of really, really good fun. It was a year, maybe a year and a half of intense work.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I'm really pleased with the result. Yes.
I feel that you are the impresario and founder of this brand, so you probably have so many jobs that you do, so many things that just kind of fall under this umbrella of Sergio Momo's day-to-day life. And I'm wondering, of the different things, whether it's promoting the fragrances or coming up with the new ideas, collaborating with the perfumers, what are your favorite aspects of your job?
I think pretty much everything you just said now. We still have this, I don't know if we can call it bad habit of multitasking, which it comes from, have this idea of being able to do a bit of everything, which is wrong. The size that we are now in Xerjoff, we are almost 65 or 67 in the company. So obviously, there is a well-organized machine which works on a daily basis. But even myself and all the director have a business partner and the directors, we're still maintaining that kind of multitask approach to work, and which I think come from the way that we are, in a way. And but yes, nowadays I think my role is to do what I'm doing now, so representing the brand, telling the story, and then coming up with the creative ideas, which is becoming not more and more difficult because I don't know, you're not 20 years old anymore. That's not the point. The point is that portfolio is really big.
Yes.
It's really, really big.
Yeah.
So you need to be careful that you're not doing every replica of yourself, because that would be a huge mistake in terms of juice, of course.
And some brands just overproduce. And if you introduce too many things, it's overwhelming and people don't know what's what anymore.
That's right. So sometimes I go back and say, oh my God, I mean, that perfume done 10 or 15 years ago is a beautiful work of art. And maybe we didn't introduce it properly. Maybe it was, for some reason, was kind of not understood, or maybe it was too early to launch that kind of, So sometimes we go back and we say, look, instead of creating a new one, we want to reintroduce something which we feel deserve much more. Some of the latest releases, actually a perfume which they've been around a few years, but they were they were exclusive. Maybe exclusive, I don't know, with a important retail like Harrods or other retailers, that after many years we decide the same juice to have it available worldwide.
Yeah.
So a lot of customers around the world, they think that, I don't know, Purple Accento that we are launching now, or Herba Gold, or our new perfume. Actually, they're not. Sometimes they have almost 10 years old, but we were faithful to our promise to maintain those perfume exclusive for a X amount of years, and now finally we can release them. So not everything which we are launching right now is new.
Yeah.
It's just being held in one single door or one single market.
I think it's fantastic. It's like you're a museum and you're going into the collection and you're choosing the pieces that you want to put the spotlight on.
Yes. And sometimes it's also frustrating, because I go back to the initial shooting stars or some of the old 1717 and said, oh my God, that was really, really good. How come we are not selling tons of this? Which to me maybe are far better than our bestsellers. Because once you're inside this kind of dynamics, you have that kind of thinking. So why is people buying so much of this and we have...
Maybe but then they were not ready for it at that time.
Maybe they were, I mean, God knows. If you ask me why, I still don't have the answer for that. And but still, it's worth, like, all the beautiful stories. Sometimes it's always nice to go back.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you should be proud of this body of work.
Yes, absolutely. But it's a matter of understanding what you've done in the past and picking what you reckon that it deserved much more, and maybe bring it back to life.
I feel that when I first became aware of Xerjoff with Shooting Stars, and that was quite some time ago, so in that time, the whole niche world of perfumery has grown so much. It's exploded. And Xerjoff as a brand has grown so much. It's a totally different landscape now than it was 16 years ago or so. What would you say are the major things that are different now than they were back then?
Well, obviously, the market is being shaped by the clients, by the consumer. Yeah. Because niche, by the nature of it, has never invested huge amount in communication, and so we conquer the market because of the beauty of what we've done. Yeah. When I say we, I mean the category, not just Xerjoff. And I think there was a huge gap in the perfume universe 20 years ago. Yeah. And we all feel that gap. If I think back at the beginning, probably there were 6 or 7 niche brands, including Creed, so including the old guys. There were 6 or 7 now. Probably, I don't know. You tell me. 3, 4, 500, 600. I mean,
I think the world was ready for Xerjoff to enter at that point and grow, because now you're such an established brand in this world of niche perfumery, and well deserved.
Well, thank you. I think that we do have some very important other brands in the market. which are really creative, and the quality is very high. And that is very important, because when you have some competitors which are on a really high level, it keeps you, obviously
keeps you on your toes.
Absolutely, and in order to do better and to be different as well.
Yeah.
And so this is very, very important. So I think that nowadays the niche sector is so huge that you can almost divide it. You can make some segmentation, if you like, in terms of in terms of age, for how many years a certain brand have been in the market. Some of the brands are very young and still doing very well. But still, I don't think that the niche concept is going to disappear. A lot of people said, are you still calling it niche? And I had a lot of thought about that, and I said, yes. So who cares if numbers are higher? The DNA is still there. If you keep the creativity, the quality in place, why shouldn't you call it niche? Just because we are more successful, just because we have more doors, good for us. But as long as we maintain that level of quality, we are still niche.
This has been so fascinating. I had no idea that you were such an incredible storyteller. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned in for other episodes of It's Just Perfume. We're going to speak to incredible people behind the fragrances, like Sergio Momo, and also members of the Lucky Scent and Scent Bar family, just fragrance lovers, to talk all things perfume. We'll see you next time.